I never thought a routine Tuesday commute could flip my entire day upside down, but that was before I met her. Picture this: neon brake lights stretching down the expressway, soft rain tapping on the windshield, and my favorite podcast murmuring about staying calm behind the wheel. Calm was the plan, until a blaring horn exploded in my mirrors. In the next lane, a silver SUV darted back and forth, the driver's face twisted in practiced annoyance. She had the classic Karen cut, oversized sunglasses, and a smirk you could spot from orbit. I eased into the proper lane, giving her space, guessing she was late for something that mattered only to her. Instead of passing, she tailgated so close I could see every letter on her novelty mug through the glass. World's best passenger seat driver. I tapped my brakes to signal traffic slowing ahead. That tiny legal tap was all it took. The SUV surged. Forward. Boom. The jolt snapped my seatbelt, coffee splashed the dashboard, and my heart pounded louder than the rain. The smell of overheated brakes hung in the humid air, and tiny shards of taillight glass glittered like red confetti across the asphalt. Before I could even blink, she leapt out, arms flailing, shouting that I needed to learn a lesson about road etiquette. According to her, rear-ending me was a public service announcement. As other cars crept by, her rant grew wilder. She bragged about having connections, insisted the police would side with her, and threatened to ruin my insurance record forever. Drivers whispered, phones angled for video. Everything in me wanted to snap back, but something told me to stay cool and let her dig her own hole. Because in that moment, before the flashing lights, before the surprised officers, before the sweetest twist of karma I have ever witnessed, I realized the universe was about to grade her pop quiz on humility. And trust me, the final answer left everyone on that wet highway speechless. So there we were, parked awkwardly on the shoulder of a busy highway, my bumper cracked, her SUV barely scratched, and Karen standing in the middle of it all like she owned the road. The sky was still drizzling, just enough to blur the chaos around us, and the cars crawling past had their own little audience show playing out live. She kept talking, loud enough for everyone to hear, as if volume alone would make her right. She claimed I brake-checked her, that I intentionally caused the accident. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stayed calm, even as she got closer, gesturing wildly, phone in hand, supposedly documenting the evidence. Her voice had that sharp, smug tone like she was already preparing her speech for court. She even name-dropped a cousin she claimed worked high up in the local police department, as if that was going to magically erase the fact that she rear-ended me. Now, for context, I drive a small sedan. Nothing fancy, but I keep it clean and well-maintained. That day, I was on my way to a job interview, a big one, the kind of opportunity you prep for all week. And now, not only was my car damaged, but I was officially going to be late. I couldn't believe this was happening. While I waited for the cops to arrive, I started quietly recording everything. Not to stir drama, but just to protect myself. Because it was clear she was building a story, one where I was the villain. Her energy shifted every time she noticed someone watching. To me, she was rude and accusing. To the bystanders, she played the victim, acting like I'd caused some kind of emotional trauma. At one point, she even told a driver passing by that I tried to run her off the road. I didn't even know how to respond. But deep down, I knew the truth would eventually come out. And when it did, let's just say karma doesn't knock gently. As we stood there in the rain, the flashing lights of the first patrol car finally appeared in the distance. Karen immediately straightened up, smoothed her jacket, and switched into full drama mode. You could see it all over her face. This was her moment. She waved her arms like someone stranded on an island, flagging the officer down as if she'd just survived some life-threatening event. The officer, a calm and serious-looking guy, stepped out of his cruiser and asked what happened. Before I could even open my mouth, Karen jumped in. "He slammed on his brakes out of nowhere," she started, pointing at me like I was some criminal mastermind. "He was being reckless. I was just trying to keep traffic flowing, and then boom, he does it on purpose." I couldn't believe how bold her lies were. The officer turned to me next, and I kept it simple. I told him the truth. Traffic slowed, I tapped my brakes, and she hit me. Nothing more, nothing less. But even while I was talking, Karen was behind me muttering under her breath, loud enough so the officer could hear. Unbelievable. People like him shouldn't even be allowed to drive. That's when another voice entered the mix, a woman from a few cars back who had pulled over and was walking toward us with her phone in hand. She said she saw the whole thing and had it on video. Karen's face froze for just a second, but she quickly recovered, turning her frustration toward the witness. "You didn't see everything. You don't know what he did before that," she snapped, clearly rattled. Meanwhile, my heart was racing. I hadn't seen the footage yet, but I was starting to realize this wasn't just some minor fender bender. This was turning into a full-blown scene with real consequences. And while Karen kept up her act, I could feel the situation shifting. But whether it would turn in my favor or not, that was still very much up in the air. The officer asked the witness to step aside so he could review the footage she'd mentioned. Karen's entire energy shifted. She stopped pacing. She stopped talking. Her smug confidence turned into tight-lipped silence, but her eyes were darting everywhere, watching the officer, the witness, me. She looked like someone trying to calculate the damage before it hit. While he watched the video, another officer arrived and began taking down details. I handed over my license and insurance, trying to stay calm even though my hands were still shaking. This wasn't just about my car anymore. It was about my name, my record, and the interview I was clearly missing. Karen, on the other hand, was now glued to her phone, texting furiously, probably trying to spin the situation in her favor before it got worse. She still mumbled things like, "I shouldn't even have to deal with this," and "These people just don't know how to drive," loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. Traffic was crawling past, and I could see drivers slowing down, staring at the scene, probably expecting some kind of blow-up. The tension was thick. I was holding it together, on the outside, but inside I was boiling. This woman had rear-ended me, lied about it, insulted me to my face, and now she was acting like she was the victim. Then the officer came back. His expression was unreadable, which only made everything feel heavier. He motioned for Karen to join him by the squad car. She hesitated, then walked over, still putting on a calm front, but her walk had lost that confident swing. I watched them talk. Her arms started moving again. At one point, she even pointed back at me like she was still trying to convince him I was the problem. Whatever he said next, she didn't seem to like it. Her voice got louder again, almost desperate this time, but he stayed firm. She stopped talking. That silence was louder than any of her yelling. And in that moment, I knew something had shifted for good. Something big was coming. Just when I thought things couldn't get more tense, the second officer walked back toward me, but this time he wasn't alone. He was holding something in his hand. "Sir," he said calmly, "does this belong to you?" I looked down and saw a small dash cam. It was mine, but I hadn't even realized it had gotten knocked loose during the impact. I nodded, still confused, and he said, "We're reviewing the footage from this as well." That's when everything shifted again. I hadn't even remembered the dash cam was running, but it had been recording the entire time, from the moment Karen started tailgating me to the exact second of the crash. And not only that, but it had picked up her shouting immediately after, loud and clear. One of the officers took the camera to the squad car while the other stayed with me, asking a few more details about what happened before the crash. I answered, honestly, but my eyes kept drifting back to Karen. She was pacing again, faster now. She knew. She must have realized the dash cam could crush her entire version of events. She looked over at me, then at the police car where the footage was being reviewed. Her face flushed. Then, in a move I didn't see coming, she pulled out her phone and made a call, turning slightly away, but I caught enough of her conversation to realize she wasn't calling for help. She was calling someone she knew in law enforcement. "She's trying to pull strings," I muttered under my breath. I wasn't even surprised anymore. She was grasping at anything that might save her from being held accountable. The stakes had just gone up, fast. This wasn't just about a car accident anymore. It was about character, reputation, and someone trying to manipulate the truth because they didn't want to admit they were wrong. I stood there, rain still falling, heart still racing, wondering, was this call going to change everything? Or was karma already too far ahead? The officer reviewing my dashcam footage finally stepped out of his car. His expression said it all, neutral but firm. Karen was still on her phone, whispering quickly and pacing like she was waiting for some kind of lifeline to arrive. Walked right up to her and asked her to hang up. She hesitated but finally ended the call, folding her arms and trying to look composed. He began explaining the results of their review, loud enough for both of us to hear. He calmly stated that the dashcam footage confirmed everything I had said. My brake lights came on gently in response to slowing traffic. There was no sudden stop, no reckless move, just a normal reaction in a normal situation. Then he mentioned the witness's video, which backed up the same timeline. It was crystal clear. Karen had been tailgating too closely, and the collision was entirely her fault. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The confidence she had strutted in with earlier was completely gone. Then came the unexpected twist. The officer told her that not only was she at fault for the accident, but due to her aggressive behavior, false statements, and attempts to influence the report, she could potentially face further consequences. At that moment, she lost it. "This is ridiculous! I was just trying to teach him a lesson," she blurted out loud, instantly realizing she had just admitted way more than she meant to. Everyone froze for a second, including the second officer, who raised an eyebrow. That one sentence sealed it. They asked her to step aside while they finished up the report. No arrests or cuffs, just paperwork. But that twist hit hard. The very lesson she tried to teach had flipped on her in the worst way. As for me, I got my report, exchanged info, and finally walked back to my car, soaking wet but strangely relieved. I missed my interview, yeah. But I walked away with something better, the truth on my side, and the most unexpected case of instant karma I've ever seen. As I finally drove away from the scene, windshield wipers brushing away the last of the rain, I had a lot running through my mind. I was late, frustrated, and still shaken up, but somehow, I felt okay. Maybe it was knowing that, for once, the truth actually won. That Karen's arrogance, her lies, and her attempt to manipulate the situation had completely backfired. The justice wasn't loud or dramatic, but it was solid, fair, and it stayed with me longer than any yelling match ever could. I called the company I had the interview with and explained the situation. To my surprise, they were understanding and rescheduled me for the following week. That small bit of kindness felt like the final piece falling into place. Sometimes things don't go according to plan, but when you stay calm and let the truth do the work, it can still come out right. A few days later, I got a call from my insurance company. They had reviewed the police report, dashcam footage, and witness statement. The fault was 100% on Karen. No impact on my record, no cost on my end, just closure. And here's the takeaway. Road rage doesn't make anyone right. Acting entitled and trying to teach someone a lesson with aggression never ends well. What really matters is staying calm, knowing your truth, and letting the facts speak for themselves. So yeah, Karen may have rear-ended me thinking she was making a point, but in the end, the only lesson taught was hers. And for once, karma didn't. Wait! It showed up right on time, in front of a full audience. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever had a wild encounter like this, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear how your karma story played out.